Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: what is a good starter video game for a middle-aged man who has never really played before? I started with a game called Super Mario Bros. As is tradition. This is the A way. Yahoo! I wanted to be more specific, but apparently that broke the submission rules and was removed. We have no console, so online games or downloads only. Bonus if it is a game my wife and 15-year-old stepdaughter can play together. Edit, JFC, I posted this then got caught up in work. I have a lot of reading to do, how am I supposed to ever get to the actual games? Thank you all for the feedback and suggestions. Edit 2, I am hearing on here that my computer video card might affect my ability to play video games. I have a Dell XPS 13, Core i7, 2018, that apparently has 128 megabytes dedicated Intel UHD graphics 620. No idea if that card is good enough or if I need to consider upgrading. Edit 3, Gold. 13 Kelvin upvotes. For my little question that I hoped might get a couple of serious replies. I am blushing. How do I see who gifted it? What do I do with it? Also, RIP Inbox never had to say that before. Worms. It's turn-based and absolutely hilarious. This is a great answer. Fairly simple, fun to play with friends. Stardew Valley is basically created for you guys. This times 100. I'm a 25-year-old single man with no kids, and I get all giddy thinking of playing this with a future wife and daughter. Jackbox Party Pack. Fun for the whole family, and it's available on everything under the sun, including stuff like Amazon Fire Sticks. Lego games. Seriously. Lego makes game versions of popular movies like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Marvel superheroes, etc. You run around fighting things and figuring out how to get by things. You cannot lose. If you die, you just respawn. A lot of people are listing some really big adventure games. Overcooked and Overcooked 2 are some of the most entertaining, family-friendly, and easy to understand games around. Everyone can play together. Overcooked is like Monopoly. If you don't hate your family, this is a great game to do so. My ex and I broke up shortly after starting to play Overcooked together. While that was not the main problem, I will never be convinced it didn't contribute to the seething resentment. Especially if you want to curse up a storm. No, it needed lettuce, not tomato. Agsh runs character around holding the curse button. There is a curse button. Some suggestions you've gotten that are downright bad for a new gamers, and why? Portal 1 or 2, while 90% is puzzles that take a bit of time but are doable, there are some complicated parts. If unfamiliar with first-person shooter controls, you might run into an issue getting up a very large shaft in Portal 1, for example, since you'll be required to move the mouse quickly and effectively while flying through the air and aiming new portals. The Stanley Parable, while it's simple to play through, most of the comedy of this game might be lost on someone who hasn't played a lot of games already. It subverts a lot of norms, which is just going to be confusing without knowing the norms and what the subversion of them is supposed to represent. Civilization, I have to imagine this was suggested as a joke. Don't try to make this your first game. Seriously. It is complex and first-time gamers probably wouldn't even find it very fun. Dark Souls, you have probably already heard about how terribly difficult this game can be. Some suggestions you've gotten that are good. Stardew Valley, there's no rush in it, no real backwards progress, so you don't have to worry about failure. It's calming and cheerful, and you can get a feel for progression through actions and how menus work. Overcooked, it's hectic but it's all in fun. You don't need to know much about menus, and there's very little you'll need to learn to start playing immediately. Low difficulty curve to start, but it expands as you go. Minecraft, comfortable atmosphere during the day, and for the most part you can avoid combat if you need to. There's a large amount of expanded gameplay once you get into fighting and exploring, but you can play at your own pace fairly easily and learn on your own terms. Apparently there is a recipe book for every crafted item in the game, which is a new addition that makes this doable as a first-time gamer. Note, I'd suggest having someone help you out with this if you know someone who has played before. Plants vs Zombies, simple to understand, very approachable for first-time or casual gamers. My personal recommendations. I'd second Overcooked and Stardew Valley. Firewatch, a beautiful story, no backwards progression, and a basic UI to get you acclimated to how game UI tends to work. Geometry Wars 1, 2, and 3, note, only if you have an Xbox controller for your PC. This game can get extremely difficult at higher levels, but there's plenty of fun at lower levels and it's easy to pick up and start playing immediately. Braid, a simple platformer with a unique art style and some unique gameplay mechanics, namely time reversal. Limbo, stylized platformer with some interesting storytelling and world building you might enjoy. There is risk and some difficult parts, but nothing a new gamer won't be able to get through. Osmos, simple mechanic of movement through space and absorption of smaller items to get bigger, but it gets complicated as orbital mechanics are brought in and enemy objects racing to get bigger than you. Very simple to understand once you start playing, and it's very calming during non-competitive levels. Minecraft actually has a crafting guide in game now, so you can click what you want and make it or learn the recipe of it. No mods required. Portal 1 or 2. While 90% is puzzles that take a bit of time but are doable, there are some complicated parts. If unfamiliar with first-person shooter controls, you might run into an issue getting up a very large shaft in Portal 1, for example, since you will be required to move the mouse quickly and effectively while flying through the air and aiming new portals. To expand on this, I would say the Portal games are a good introduction to first-person shooters, but they are not a good introduction to games in general. Portal was my first game that wasn't The Sims or AoE, and I think it was an excellent starting point. You can take your time, and the story makes things funny rather than frustrating. On the other hand, yes, it can be a bit difficult, with the precise timing and such, but you can try as many times as you need to. Stardew Valley. You all can play together, it's wholesome, takes time and a lot of things to discover. I don't play video games ever but got the hang of this pretty easily. Once I got the fishing and mining figured out, nothing could stop me. It's like $15 on Steam and I use my laptop. Minecraft. This actually is true. I watched a video of Razbute that let his wife, non-gamer, play Minecraft and it was actually pretty interesting. Here's the link to the video if you're interested, https://u2.be/76lcbpdbvw. His wife, more commonly known as the lady he lives with. Edit, my bad, lady he lives with, not woman. I'd strongly recommend the Lego games. So much fun. I believe most of them have multiplayer as well. I was looking for this. First game I remember playing was Lego Star Wars on the original Xbox. Easy to pick up even as a 7-year-old. Get a Nintendo, like parents used to say in the olden days. Today this means a Nintendo Switch. If you are alone you can play Zelda or Mario Odyssey. If you have people to play with, you can play party games like Mario Kart. Nintendo games are popular and easy on new players. You can have fun as a kid, a teen, or an adult. Can't go wrong. Yeah, it's pretty much the easiest way to get into it. A lot of people forget that if you're not used to video games, just learning how to navigate a 3D environment and use the controller can be a challenge for some people. I used an Xbox One to tech some 7 to 8-year-old kid video games. He never played in a 3D open sandbox world before and the most kid-friendly game I had was Banjo-Kazooie. Just being able to run around, jump, swim, and whack vegetables was enough for him to be mesmerized. I wish I remembered that feeling the first time I played those games. They became the norm fast for me on an N64 growing up. Minecraft, just Minecraft, not mod Minecraft. Cause Minecraft with shaders won't run. I never been able to get Minecraft with shaders to run for me. Portal 1 and 2. First-person puzzle game with a great story and memorable moments. I'm not sure I can agree. They are amazing games but the puzzles can be quite challenging and I feel the controls would be difficult for a complete beginner. I'm with you on this. Portal series is an all-time great series, but definitely not something I'd recommend to someone who has never played a game before. Some of the puzzles require some fast reactions. That would be tough for someone who is still learning basic video game movement controls, let alone controls specific to Portal. I'd recommend something with very straightforward controls like a racing game. Mario Kart definitely comes to mind. I second this. Portal is a great introduction to first-person shooters, without the pacing of shooting, and also a great display of what game mechanics are capable of in terms of puzzles and adventure. I also recommend the Stanley Parable for this reason. It's first person, basically just walking, but has some elements of other games hidden throughout. On top of that, it will pique your interest in exactly what video games can do with a narrative. Edit, a grammar lesson I learned. The Stanley Parable, which can be gotten for free for the next 2 days from epicgames.com, along with Watch Dogs. I'd recommend starting off with a more casual game to get your feet in the water before you dive right in, just so you get to know how things work. I'd recommend Plants vs Zombies, or Spyro Reignited as great starters, though you have to have a damn good PC to play Spyro. As someone who hasn't played Spyro since Year of the Dragon, WoW-2020 is sure continuing its weird as heck streak.